NHL Central Division predictions. At 8th, I've got the Chicago Blackhawks. Much like the Sharks for my Pacific predictions, this team's got a lot of good young talent, and they're starting to build around Connor Bedard, but for a lot of that young talent in this organization, their best years are still ahead of them. They're still in a rebuild. At 7th, I've got the Nashville Predators. I gotta say, I respected the moves that the Preds made going into last season to try to turn their team into a cup contender, but it just didn't work out. They ended up as a lottery team. I expect the same this upcoming season, as a lot of their top stars' best years are behind them. At 6th, I've got the Minnesota Wild. The Central's a tough division. The Wild never really seemed to be a top team, and it feels like in order for them to make the playoffs, Kirill Kaprizov has to have a Hart Trophy caliber season, which I think he's capable of doing. But now with all the smoke coming out of Minnesota in regards to whether or not he'll re-sign, and I think there's a possibility they could trade him, and if they do end up trading him, they're not going to be close to the playoffs. At 5th, I've got the Utah Mammoth. Utah is an exciting team. Clayton Keller's coming off the best season of his career. Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther still have some unlocked potential, and they had a good offseason adding JJ Peterka. My one question is in goal. Vejmelka had a solid year last year, but he's been up and down over the last few seasons. If he has another solid year, I think we'll see playoff hockey in Utah for the first time ever. At 4th, I've got the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs just seem to be trending downward since their Stanley Cup win in 2022. Their depth isn't nearly as good as it used to be, but when you've still got the second best player in the world in Nathan MacKinnon and the best defenseman in Cale Makar, you should almost be guaranteed to make the playoffs, so I think they'll still be a solid playoff team. At 3rd, I've got the St. Louis Blues. The Blues found their footing in the second half of last season. They almost upset the Jets in the first round. Binnington was fantastic in the second half, and this upcoming season will be the first full year of Jimmy Snuggerud in the NHL. I also think Robert Thomas doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think he's a top 10 center in the NHL, and I think he's going to be a big reason why the Blues are a strong team this upcoming season. At 2nd, I've got the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets proved me wrong last year. They won the President's Trophy, so I'm going to make sure they can't prove me wrong again. This is going to be a deep team. They did lose Nikolai Ehlers, but they bring in Jonathan Toews. I'm interested to see what he'll bring to the Winnipeg Jets. We know what Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Josh Morrissey are going to bring to this team, and they've got the best goalie in the league in Connor Hellebuck. But at number 1, it's the Dallas Stars. Dallas will be a contender once again. They've got one of the deepest forward groups in the NHL. They're going to have Mikko Rantanen for a full season. I still think they need to add another top 4 defenseman in order to win the Stanley Cup, but they've got reliable goaltending in Jake Ottinger. But as always, leave a like, drop a follow on the Armchair Athletes, and let me know who you think will win the Central.